Krysten, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you on with us today.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for everyone listening, I have Krysten Taprell, the director of The Therapist Parent, with us today. She's a psychologist with over 20 years of experience working with children and families. Wow.
Just makes me sound old.
Very knowledgeable. She's also an author and illustrator of the Dream Director books, plus offers a range of other products that support children, from gratitude cards, mindfulness puzzles, and etc. So you are such a wealth of knowledge and expertise. So thank you again for joining us for this particular Vault episode.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right, so let's jump straight into the call.
Hi, Leonie. Loving the podcast. Just found you recently and I've binged all your episodes. It's great stuff. I'm looking forward to this new format. I wanted to have a quick chat about what's on my mind as a parent. I have a 3-year-old toddler. He's driving me insane. Don't get me wrong, I love him to bits, but he never listens. It's like I'm talking to a brick wall. We bought him a new toddler's bed because he's a big boy now, but he gets up what feels like 20 times a night. It feels as like he's intentionally cheeky, always pushing his brother, doing exactly the opposite of what I ask him to. I say quiet him down and he gets louder. I say don't touch and he'll go and touch stuff. What makes it more difficult is he's a bit of a mummy's boy. So when I try to give him dinner or get him in the bath, he's always screaming that he wants his mum. And if she comes over, he'll be fine with her. I just can't win. He's wearing me down. I feel like he's out to get me. I know deep down it's a phase, but I had no idea how challenging this time would be. Just reiterating that I do love him dearly, but he's just driving me nuts. Can anyone else relate? Do you have any advice in navigating this difficult phase with toddlers?
Krysten, I feel like I feel like it's over to you. Do you come across this with clients around the terrible threes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, all the time. And I've experienced it too. I think anyone can relate to that.
Yes.
You know, they do feel like they're doing it on purpose, and it does drive you crazy. And you have no idea how difficult it's going to be until you're a parent and they push every button.
Yes, absolutely.
And then adding sleep, being sleep deprived and everything else on top of that.
Oh,
it's really hard.
It's
tough. It is really hard. But this is
commonplace, is it?
It's normal though.
Yeah, I've got a 2 and 3-year-old, so this particular person, I'm just like, dude, you are speaking my language. It is tough, and I feel like as soon as the little one hit 3, Noah, he's my oldest, it just got worse, and I guess that's why they call it the terrible 2s and 3s for a reason. I want to delve into some parts of this caller's confession just to sort of maybe get some guidance from yourself. So firstly, and we're very much experiencing this in our household as well, where everything is about mummy at the moment, and no, mummy gives me my milk and mummy, daddy go away and blah, blah, blah. Firstly, why do kids do this? Is this normal? And what can we do about it to even the playing field?
Okay, so yes, it is normal, where babies are actually wired to attach to one person. So we call it a dyadic relationship. So like a dyad, there's 2. So a child is wired to just mainly attach to that one person. That's a survival thing that we've got set up. That person is the main person that looks after me, that feeds me. So yes, there's other people, there's other family members, there's other people around, but there's always going to be that one person that they will attach to the most. Now, usually it's mum, because mum is often breastfeeding or feeding or spending the most time with them. So it is absolutely normal that they will, and it's important that they attach to that one person. So what we can do is, and it's really hard for dads, and I hear this a lot, because they're trying, they want to help, but the child just won't let them or won't settle with them, and they're trying, you know, they might get up through the night and try and settle, but they won't settle, so they may as well go back to bed because the mum needs them anyway. The best thing dads can do is just support mum and understand that that relationship is normal, that it's important for that baby's brain development, that they do attach to one person and that they have that connection. So the best thing they can do is do the other things that need to be done so mum can have that time with that child. Now that's really important, definitely up to the age of 3, even to 5, there's still that need. At 3 they're starting to let other people in, but definitely till 3 that one person is the main person, and it's going to be really tricky. And I think the more parents and particularly dads understand it's not personal, it's not that they don't love them, it's just they need that relationship with that one person for now. It's not forever, but it is going to be for that time.
Yeah, it's
so dads need to sort of be aware that there's other things need to be done so that mum isn't worn out doing everything, and maybe they can do some other things so that mum can do that. The other thing, so like this caller, that the child's 3, so, and they've got a younger one too, just like you. So it's tricky. So you've got 2 kids that really want mum. So that's when you really need to, so dads, I find they tend to just pick up when things are really tricky, and they can probably feel like they're forever correcting their child, or they're forever just dealing with the hard stuff. Or they come in, you know, when it's, and they have to take the screaming kid because mum's trying to deal with the other kid. So as much as they can, try and just build that connection. Try and just do some fun stuff. You know, like the research says that it even only takes 10 minutes, even once a week, more is better, where if the adult will just be directed by that child to do whatever they want to do, then you're building connection. I don't mean like, you know, they want to go get ice cream, so you go and buy them everything they want, or anything like that, but just sit with them and play. And if they want you to pretend to be a cat, then pretend to be a cat. Like,
it's so true, know, what you're saying there, even just as an example from my own life. So, you know, hubby gets home from work. He's often got maybe about half an hour leeway before we put the kids to sleep. And so what does he do? He reads them their books. I'm cleaning dishes and doing whatever, and that's his time. So it's, as you said, just allocating whatever time you've got for, and they know with books, they race over to him because they know that that's his role, you know?
Yes. Yeah, and in doing that, you're building that nice relationship, that connection where it's not just dad telling them what to do or dad's come in to fix this because no one else. So they're having some special time with dad, and having it as part of a routine is actually really important as well. Making sure that they know this is daddy time. Yeah. You know, this is time we get to do something fun with dad, and it's not taken away. It's not, you know, it's something they can rely on. And they know dad is going to be there for that. So, so that's really good for building that relationship. And look, the other thing that you can do, so when a child is going, no, I want mummy to put me to bed, and you're with the other one, so you can't, just go back to, okay, validate the feelings. Try not to take it personally, because it's not. They don't love you. It's just they're connected to mum. But yeah, I get it. Mum is really good at this, isn't she? I like doing things with mum too. She's great. And I have to help mum. So I'm going to do this with you now.
That's
so in that way, they feel heard. They feel validated. They get that you understand that they really want mum. And then you can move them on to the next thing.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good hot tip. And I'm thinking also about our same-sex couples as well. And typically,
Yep.
I'm assuming it would be a similar thing where,
Yep.
potentially one of the parents is the one that is needed the most by the children, and the other
Yeah.
person sort of feels like they're sidelined a little bit. So, I mean, all of these tips are so helpful, I guess, regardless of your,
Gender,
gender and all of that
Yeah.
within your relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's grandma that's looking after the child, maybe.
Yep.
And, all families are different, but there's always going to be one
Yeah.
for that young age that the child has to attach to. And that's a really important part of their brain development, is to attach to that one person. So we don't want to break that. We want to support it.
Can you explain a little bit more? Why is it important for their brain development?
Because what they're doing, they're wiring for, their brain is wiring for their needs, and they're feeling like they're getting their needs met. This one person is coming in, and they're the ones they attune to, they're the ones they're learning from. Now, if that's changing all the time, then that can't happen as well as it should. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
That's so interesting and such a good way to put it. I mean, it's not just that they're doing it on purpose to drive us nuts. There's actually a method to the madness.
Yeah, all of kids' behaviour, there's usually a reason for it.
So, all right, I want to talk about another thing this caller mentioned, which is the fact that kids just don't bloody listen. And it's so frustrating. And it's almost like they love the reaction that they might get from the parent when they aren't listening and they are doing the wrong thing. Sometimes, as you said, you feel like you're just barking orders half the time. And I find that I see myself doing that and I go, wow, this is happening. So I try to distract. So I go, okay, he's not listening to me in this scenario. So, hey, let's go pick up this toy or help mum with this. Or, I just distract because I'm just not getting the reaction out of him that I'm desiring. I'm curious, what other tips and tricks can we be using when we are barking those orders, or don't touch that, oh, don't push your brother, and oh, over here, got to get your clothes on, oh, you don't want to come over here, hurry up, we've got to go. Like, you constantly just barking at them. How could we be doing it in a way that is better received by the toddler?
Okay, so first thing is try not to use don't. So if I say to you now, don't think about chocolate, what did you just think of? Chocolate. Yeah. So if you're saying don't be so loud, what you're actually doing is tuning them into be loud, because the brain can't not think of something. If you've said don't do this, the brain automatically goes to that. And young children don't have impulse control. So they don't think, okay, mum said stop, I need to stop because this might happen. All they heard, be loud. Or touch, or everything that you've said don't do. So as much as possible, try not to do, don't do this, don't do that. So they just can't do it. So instead, you could go, okay, and it's hard because, parents are busy and time poor and stressed and got a lot going on. But as much as you can, sort of go over to them instead of saying, don't be so loud. You can go over, don't yell from another room as much as you can. Because, nobody likes to have orders barked at them. Just like you said, we're forever saying, don't do this, don't do that. Come here, rush, do this. I mean, no adult likes to have that. Eventually you're going to switch off if you're constantly having orders. So as much as you can, go over to them and get their attention. And instead of just giving them the direction, try and get them to see, go, wow, it's really loud. When it's loud, this happens. We might wake your brother. What happens if we wake your brother? What should we do? And try and get them to come up with the decision. Now, I know that's not quick, and you can't do that all the time. But as much as you can, you want them to be seeing why we're saying this. Because when we try and get them to problem solve and to work it out, what we're actually doing is helping their thinking part of their brain to develop. So the frontal cortex of their brain. So that's our logical part of the brain that helps with impulse control and helps with all of those things that we want. So instead of just telling them what to do, we kind of get them involved in it so that they can see it's not just, we're not just trying to make life not fun, we're giving it to them for a reason.
So what about the approach of rather, because being too loud is such a thing in our household. Like, you know, you finish your day at work, all you want is peace and quiet. You got these two kids trying to compete over who's talking the loudest and who's pushing cars, and it's just chaos, right? So for me, I'm often like, can we inside voices? Like inside voices, that's too loud. Inside voices, that's often what I'll say. So maybe instead, should I be encouraging using more language like, you know, because I'm just trying to think, what's the consequence of being loud? They're both up. It's not like I can say, oh, the baby's sleeping, have a think about So what would you say in that instance?
Look, I think make it fun. I mean, you could go, oh, this hurts my ears, it's so loud. But then make it fun and pretend they've got a volume switch. Oh, your volume's up this high. I need to turn it down. Turn it down. Oh, now we're down. And then they'll probably joke and go up again. Oh, no, down again. And, you know, just make it fun. Right. You know, we don't have to be, they don't want to feel like they're in trouble all the time. You don't want them to feel like they're in trouble all the time either. So if you can make a game out of most things, you're more likely to get an outcome that you want.
Yeah, that's so true. And the first thing that comes to mind is, I mean, a lot of our listeners, they have children under the age of 5. They are working parents. We are bloody exhausted. You know, this is, you know, and so to think about the best, fun, positive approach in that moment might be quite difficult, right? You've had a bad day at work. You're over it. You're trying to feed the kids. They're not listening, blah, blah, blah. So how can we as parents get into, I guess, a better mental headspace when we often feel so fragile? And I find the last couple of hours of the day before the children go to sleep the hardest. The hardest to parent, the hardest to be the best version of myself. I'm just over it, right? I just like go to bed, eat, go to bed so I can chill out, you know? So in those really tough moments, like, are there things that we can be mindful of that can maybe help us snap out of the frazzledness of it all and parent in a better way?
Look, I think if you have, I mean, we're all going to snap and we're all going to do that sometimes. Like you're human, that's going to happen. It takes practice. The more you sort of get used to doing some game sort of ways of dealing with it, or the more you kind of practice at stopping and calming yourself first, the better you get at it. It's not something that you'll do straight away. But, you know, it can help to have some sort of mantras through your head. They're not doing it on purpose. This is normal. They're not developed enough to be able to manage their emotions yet. This is not personal. My job is to help them through. So it's kind of, if you've got those to go to sort of mantras in your head, it can be helpful. But you know what? Sometimes you need to take time out. So sometimes you have to say to your kids, and it, you know, depending on their age and how safe they are alone, but you might have to say, okay, Mum really needs to calm down because I'm going to say and do things I don't want to do. So I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes, and when I'm a bit calmer, I'll come back. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. It's actually a really positive thing to do because you're modelling to your child that when we feel overwhelmed, we need to take a break. That's fine.
Right.
But you know what? Life is hard sometimes, and the important thing is if you do lose it and you do, you know, rant and rave, maybe at bedtime, when things are calm, I go, oh, Mum really lost it today. I'm sorry I yelled. What can we do to make things better next time?
Yeah.
And if you're getting them involved, you know, you can say, next time I'm going to try and stop and take a breath to calm. Is there anything else that you could do? And then they could come up with ideas, and together you work it out.
Yeah.
That way they've got strategies, you've got strategies, and they learn that it's okay. We all make mistakes, and we can forgive each other and move on.
Yeah, I love that. And I've done it. I mean, didn't really grow up in that way where parents sort of apologize for their behavior, but I've read a lot about that. And so I do try to do that. When I've lost the plot, later on, I'll come back and say, I'm sorry, that was poor behavior. And, mum's upset because of X, Y, Z. And I think you're right. Just the more you do that, the more you're sort of modeling the best behavior that you can, because we all certainly have moments. I want to touch on the fact that, okay, so if there's two people in the couple and you're at home and everyone's a bit frazzled and someone snapped and now you're annoyed at your husband too or your partner too, tell me a bit about not the dangers, but I guess the best way to manage conflict within that relationship when children are around. It's just something I was thinking about as you were talking, because, I mean, you hear of the ones where it's like some people are like, we never fight around the kids, and others who are like, no, my kids need to build resilience. They're not going to think we're in a perfect household. So, yeah, they're going to sometimes hear us have an argument, and other people who will say, we'll snap at each other, but if there's something serious, we'll always park it for later. What I'm curious, what danger is there in arguing in front of your children?
Okay, well, it depends. Like you said, there's different levels of an argument. There's different levels of disagreement. So if it's just a disagreement, it's fine for kids to see that parents can disagree. They can have a conversation without it getting scary. So if it's getting to the point where there's yelling and there's behavior that could be seen by our children as quite scary, then that can be dangerous, because a child will be put in a state of anxiety of what's going on. My people that keep me safe aren't acting safe. And they're also kids are very egocentric. The world revolves around them. So what did I do? Why is this happening? My parents are arguing. What is it my fault? So we do have to be careful. Yes, it's good for kids to see that we can disagree and that we can work things out. That is fantastic. But no, they don't need to see yelling, shouting, or anything, any kind of abusive sort of behaviour.
Because I guess ultimately that's, they always say what happens in your childhood will sort of then, oh gosh, I've just lost the word, but it will essentially become what as an adult, the insecurities that you have as a child and all of the other things, they will sort of continue to grow with you, and as an adult they'll be your trigger points, and they'll be your so I guess, as that's you said, without wanting to be no one can be perfect. We all have moments and everything like that. But from what I'm hearing, it's just being mindful of the environment that you want your children to be in. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, interesting.
And if you can sort of, have some sort of disagreement, then I agree with the let's park it for later. Okay. We're not agreeing on this. Let's talk about it when we've got some more time away from the kids.
Yeah, love it. One of the last things the caller brought up was around the bedtime and the toddler bed. And this is a very big thing, particularly for myself too, with our 3-year-old. Loves to hop out of bed a million times before eventually falling asleep. And it's very frustrating because, I mean, I've got a very short window in which I then go to sleep. I like to lie in bed, read my book, just chill out for a full 5 minutes before falling asleep. And often I'm in and out of bed and then my 5 minutes are up and I haven't even read my book. So it becomes internally frustrating as well. So is there a good way in which to handle the ups and downs of the toddler bed? Like what would you suggest?
Look, there are a few things that you can do to make things a bit easier, a bit smoother. But again, you've got to kind of come to terms with this as normal behaviour as well. Not many kids are going to just go, okay, good night, and go to bed. And they're probably going to get up as well. A few different things. So separating from mum and dad or whoever is a really hard thing to do. Sleep, it can actually be a scary thing, that they're going to another room away from the person that keeps them safe and protected. And then they're asleep in this other room. Like, that doesn't always make sense to little kids, and fair enough. So you've got to acknowledge that there could be some anxiety around that as well, that they have to go away from their parent and fall asleep. the other thing is like with waking through the night, when children go through a stage of development, they're more likely to wake up. When their brain is growing, they're more likely to have more frequent wakes. So we know like when little babies start to roll over, that's when they'll start waking up again. And again when they start to crawl, and again when they start to walk. It's those big stages of development and that growth in the brain, their sleep cycles are quicker. So they're more likely to wake up. So there could be physical reasons why they're waking up. It could be anxiety why they're coming out and not settling well. So we do need to look behind the behaviour and see what's going on. But then, I mean, otherwise it just comes back to, you know, having your routine, make sure that there's real calming time before bed, make sure you've got lots of connection time before bed so they don't feel like they've missed out on time with you and now they have to go to sleep. Making sure you're avoiding screens before bed because the blue light and the screens, it interrupts, you know, melatonin and being able to fall asleep. So that actually is important. So you can do all of those things, but really it's looking at why they're coming out. What's the issue? Is it just they're having trouble settling? If they're having trouble settling, well, what can you put in place that will help them calm? And can you do a relaxation together before they go to sleep, or something that makes them feel good? Put on some music that they like, and that's their wind down time. Yeah. Are they anxious? Well, what are they anxious about? What are they worried might happen? And you can kind of work through that. But you know what? It's kind of normal.
And at what point, I mean, from your experience and your expertise, like at what point do they start being able to go to sleep and not getting up? Like, you know, and particularly, you know, not getting up as soon as you've put them to sleep. Like, what have you noticed?
Oh, look, every child's different, but those toddler years are a bit tricky like that. It's more, once they're probably around the 5 age, that they're more likely to just be in that routine and learn that it's okay to just go to sleep. Yeah. But early years, it's tricky.
Yeah. And I think that sums it up as far as, you know, this particular confession that came through. It's tricky. We're all experiencing it. It's all very normal. And drink wine or whatever it is. Do your meditations or whatever it's going to get you to get through. No, but no, thank you so much, Krysten, again for your time. I think there's so many great hot tips there. I certainly have learnt a lot from you, and hopefully that supported our listeners too. So really appreciate your time today. How can people find out more about you and your work?
Oh, sure. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook just as The Therapist Parent, and my website is thetherapistparent.com.
Love it. I'll pop those details in the episode notes. There. Yeah, perfect. Thank you again, Krysten.